Hey, everybody. Just give you a second to come in. Hey, 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 come on in the room. Hmm. All right, come on in, come on in. Okay. Let me get us going over here on Instagram and then we'll get started, you guys. All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome back. So excited to have you all back here with me tonight. Appreciate you being here. If you were here earlier today, thanks again. Thanks again. Welcome back into the room. How are you? Oh my God, a lot has happened since we were on here earlier today. So glad to see you're back here. Please, if you are joining me for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey there, hey there, hey there. Good to see everybody. Listen, be sure to share the screen. Oh my God, the stream. I'll get it right in a second. This is a very important one, you all. We have a lot of important things to talk about tonight. So I'm excited to really chat about what's happening. First of all, I want to let you know about the latest information. You have probably heard that both Georgia Fort and Don Lemon have both been released on their own, recognizance. They are still going to have a court. They're still going to have to go to court. Good evening, good evening, good evening. But they have been released. Here's the really good thing. I will say that honestly, these are not charges that will likely stand. These were journalists that were actually covering what was happening, but that's not the point, is what I was saying earlier today, right? That's not the point. The point is to intimidate. The point is to strike fear. All right. And so we are at the point now where they are just happening, that they are just operating recklessly. Now, I do want to say something. So much has happened. I have a lot more to talk with you about tonight than merely the jarring things that happened today with Don, with Georgia, and it sounds like 2 other Black journalists who have been caught up in this. All right. I want you to know about all the different things that have happened in recent days. The other thing, though, that happened today, you might not have heard that there were millions of pages of the Epstein files that were released today. How many of you knew that? Millions of pages of the Epstein files were released today. One page of which seemed to have very, very damaging information specifically about the other Don, the Don that inhabits the White House. Very, very disturbing information on that. That was released along with millions of other pages. And guess what? After a few journalists caught it and started talking about it, independent journalists, mind you, I have not seen the mainstream media pick it up, which is why independent journalism is so important. But a few independent journalists that I have followed caught and did screenshots of the page that described very disturbing, illegal acts, some of which are the worst acts that you can imagine, related to the actions and directly implicating the President of the United States. And guess what? That page mysteriously disappeared later this afternoon. So if they had not caught the screenshots, we would not even have proof of what was on that page. Notice, though, as I mentioned, I have not seen one mainstream media arm cover that. If you've seen it, let me know. I saw them cover Elon being mentioned in some of what was released today, but I didn't see any of them cover. And I wouldn't expect Fox News to cover it. But I haven't even seen the mainstream news on the left cover the fact that included in that dump was some very, very disturbing acts that were alleged in one of those pages that was released by his own Department of Justice that would implicate Don in some disgusting activity. Dangerous, well, not even dangerous, disgusting and illegal. The worst of the worst activity that should automatically disqualify him, not only from holding office, it should get him a direct card, a direct move right to jail sort of pass. But all of a sudden, that's gone. Now, here's what I want to suggest to you. I don't think these two actions are unrelated. I do not believe that these two actions are unrelated. Let me just say, in 1 week, we have had, I think we're still within the same week, right? that Alex was murdered. Yes. So in 1 week, we've had the latest murder in Minnesota. We've had the leadership there sent packing. We've had a new, well, not really new, but the border control guy really come up and be reassigned to that position. He's held a press conference. We've had the FBI raid Fulton County, Georgia's polling places. We've had the president himself come back out and do the okey doke and do the bop and weave on the one hand, trying to sort of admit defeat when it came to their initial lies about Alex, and then more recently come out on whatever that fake shit that he has of his own, calling him a domestic terrorist again. You've had, I believe it was him, also calling for Barack Obama be arrested. All of this has happened this week, y'all. Then you had these 4 journalists, independent journalists, mind you, Black journalists, be arrested. I want you to understand that, and amidst all of this, guess what was dumped on a Friday, right before another snowstorm is forecasted to meet us here in the DC area? They dumped millions of pages in the Epstein files. Not all of them, but about half that they claim they have. They claim they have 6 million pages. They dumped 3. Now, do you think that that is a coincidence that all this shit is happening all at the same time? I do not. You're exactly right. It is related. Here's what's going on. A couple of things. Number one, the ideology. Well, let me just stop. Let me roll it back. Move it back. How many of you have heard of Steve Bannon? Anybody here heard of Steve Bannon? Anybody here recognize that name? Okay. Steve Bannon is not officially in the cabinet or anything of this administration, but in many ways, he is the brainchild of the movement that has put in place the infrastructure, the political infrastructure that Trump has used in order to be able to get in office. Steve Bannon, I would argue, is one of the key thought leaders in the movement that has led to what's happened right now. And so Steve Bannon has this saying that he has used from the very first administration that they are really putting into high gear with this administration. And the key phrase that he has used as a policy directive for this information is this: flood the zone. Flood the zone. Somebody put flood the zone in the comments section for me. Flood the zone. So what does he mean by flood the zone? He means he wants so much shit to be happening all at the same time that you can't keep up with all the shit they're doing. And if they can do a gazillion things at the same time, you will either become overwhelmed, exhausted, zoned out, or give up. You might catch and stop a few of the things that they're doing, But because of the sheer volume of things that they're doing, you can't keep up with it all. So inevitably, a lot of it will go through. His whole political strategy is to flood the zone. What you are experiencing now and what you have been experiencing for the past year plus, year and a month almost, that he's been in office is flooding the zone. If you feel like this is exhausting, if you feel like this is overwhelming, if you feel like you just can't keep up with it every day, it's more shit that's coming up and it's just like making you feel just completely overwhelmed. Let me tell you, that was a strategy. That's exactly how they want you to feel. That's exactly the point. Chaos is a ladder. Chaos is a ladder. While you are distracted, while you are overwhelmed, while everything is happening all at the same time and you don't know what to pay attention to, they are marching on towards their ultimate goal, which is to undermine democracy and implant an irrevocable autocratic system. This is what they are working towards right now. So if it feels like, why are they doing so much all at the same time? That's why. The whole point is to overwhelm you. The whole point is to exhaust you. The whole point is to get you to give up. The whole point is to have so much shit be thrown up against the wall that they may not have everything stick, but they're going to get most of it stuck because you are too sort of paralyzed by everything that's happening that you don't even know where to start in terms of mounting a defense, much less a good offense. And if you ask me, the best defense is always a good offense. But when you are being pummeled all the time, it's hard to get your ducks in a row for a good offense, much less a good defense. So this is all their strategy. This whole Don Lemon thing is so outrageous. It's so outrageous, and it's based on nothingness. They're not going to win in court. If anything, they're going to win. They're going to allow his popularity to reach now unforeseen heights. But they don't care, because while you are distracted looking at that, guess what? They can flood the zone with 3 million pages of the Epstein files that they are now over a month behind of when they were legally told that they had to release it all. And they have the unmitigated gall to say, and you'll never get the rest of it. This is all we letting you see. After we spend all this extra time carefully going through it and pulling out shit we don't want you to see. And oops, we let one of them through today. And oops, we going to take it back. And one of the reasons, I'm guaranteeing you, they're going after these independent journalists like Don Lemon, like Georgia, okay? Because these are the types of journals that will actually report the truth, the unfiltered truth that you need to hear, that does not have to go through 50 bazillion different editors who are now weighing and scared that this particular autocratic system will sue them. As I mentioned, he's already sued multiple media institutions already. Let me see. How many media institutions has Trump sued? Let's look it up, you guys. Let's see. So far, the Trump administration has sued at least 7 major media organizations, including the New York Times, CNN, CBS, which they've now since basically acquired because there's new ownership there that bends a knee to him, and the Wall Street Journal. So don't you think they might be sitting here a little worried about giving you literally the even more than they normally are, about giving you the unfiltered truth? So they're going to go after the independent journalists, but I will say some of them caught this today. And after I'm done, I'll put a link to where I saw this information, and you can go yourself and take a look at what happened. Now, let's talk about what we need to do. I made the case this morning. If you saw my live this morning, I talked about the fact that what this is an attempt. Honestly, he's laying the groundwork. He's doing a couple of things. Yes, they're flooding the zone. They're trying to get you to look over here so that you won't look over there at the damaging things that are in the Epstein files. So pay attention to all this other shit we're doing, because we don't want you to know what he's been doing that should get him under the damn jail. Okay? So in addition to that very real motivation, I would argue that that's only part of the motivation of what happened today. What happened was really about sending out a shot over the bow to journalism writ large in this country, and telling journalism writ large, we will go after you. Not only in terms of lawsuits, as we have 7 times to major media organizations, we will now go after you personally and attempt to put you in jail. At the same time that they just literally rolled up in Georgia and stole ballots, stole voter rolls that we all know what are they going to, they're going to try to purge them. They're going to corrupt those ballots, claim that he won. And I would not be surprised if they then use that as an excuse to go in there. Listen, I would not use that. I would not be surprised if he does not use that as an excuse to try to go in there and do that all over the country in major cities, major majority Black cities. Because let's just be real. What puts presidents in office, if we're talking about the key battleground states, what typically wins those states are the highly populated urban areas that are made up of a disproportionate, if not majority, Black population. So that's why they're looking at Atlanta, for example, in Georgia. That's why they're going to be looking at Philadelphia, for example, in Pennsylvania. That's why they're going to be looking at Detroit, for example, in Michigan. And I could go on and on and on and on. These Black areas are going to be targeted by this administration when it comes to voting rights. And so what he gets away with in Fulton County, let me let you know, it may start in Fulton County. It will not end in Fulton County unless we do something to stop him. We need to get very loud when it comes to our local elected officials, our local board of elections, all of those folks in your states that are protecting your vote. Make sure they know you need them to protect your vote. Now, what are we to do at large? That's very funny, Ryan. I would venture to say you probably need to worry more about your own damn face than mine, dear. I would go one-on-one with you when it comes to the face card any damn day of the week. But that's a whole nother conversation. All right, so let's talk about this. What is happening next? All right, particularly the Black community in particular. Let's talk about the Black community. So there are things that we need to do. We need to understand that we have $2 billion that we are circulating, $2 trillion that we are circulating annually, $2 trillion. And we need to be very, very specific about not only who we don't spend that money with, we need to be very specific about who we do spend that money with. We have done a great job of bringing Target to its needs. A great job. But what I want you to know is this: we need to be very specific about how are we going to be supportive of our own. So one core thing that we definitely need to make sure that we do is go out of our way in every way, shape, and form that we can to support Black businesses. Let me tell you this country would collapse without our dollar. The amount of money we circulate is more than several European countries in terms of their GDP. This nation would collapse without our money. Let them feel it. Number one. Number two, we need to make sure that in 10 months, we have 10 months between now and November. 10 months between now and November. We need to do everything humanly possible to make sure that each and every person in our community is registered, ready, and willing to vote. Because we have got to get this fool out of office. And the most expedited way to have that happen is to take control of Congress. Right now, the reason why we have slipped, as far as I'm concerned, we have slipped into an autocratic system right now, where we no longer have First Amendment rights, if what happened today stands, where we no longer have Second Amendment rights, if we're supposed to be now going after what they just said about Alex. Oh, he shouldn't have had a gun. Really? Oh, really? He's a licensed gun owner. So now they're going after that? And we know about everything else, all the lawlessness that they've been engaged in since they've been here. All of the rights that they've completely obliterated since they've had their little grubby hands on the arms of power. So if you want to do something, right now to expedite the ability to put your foot to Don's ass and get him kicked the fuck out of office, if you have any dreams of in any way possible being successful and getting him impeached, we must have not only the House, we also have to have the Senate. We must have the House and the Senate. Just getting the House back will not be enough. That means we have to hold all of the senators who are running for re-election right now, who are Democrats, and we have to flip at least 4 states. So every place where we are, we have to show up and show out and win in November. In each and every race that is possible, to even have the opportunity to impeach his ass and get him under the jail. It will not happen any other way. For those of you who are hoping that it can happen somehow, Congress will come back and the Democrats can do something, they cannot. They do not have the voting power to do that right now. They do not have the House, they do not have the Senate, and Lord knows this fool has corrupted the Supreme Court. That's why we're in this precarious position. So we need, all right, the House and the Senate. And we have the concentrated power in key states to make it happen. So I'm specifically calling out Georgia, maintain that seat. I'm specifically talking about North Carolina, get that. I'm specifically talking about Texas. Come on, let's try to get that. Let's even try to get Kentucky, okay? Let's try to get a few of those that are like, there's a possibility that it could happen. So here's what I need for you to do. Make sure that all of your folks, all right, are registered and ready to go. And I'm just going to say it right now. Y'all don't need to worry about these snaggletooth inbred idiots in the comments. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's why that's what happens when you have multiple generations that mate with one another. They end up with offspring like those people in my comments right now. So I'm not paying them no mind, so you don't need to either. I'm just having fun with them because they're amusing to me. So that's exactly right. We need to support Jasmine Crockett. Here is the thing. This is the time. This is the time to shut those idiots up forever. Because here's what's happened with them. The reason why they out here like this is because they have a little hubris now that they have the idiot in chief in the White House. They think they have some power, but let me just say, they do not. They do not. As I shared this morning, Trump is at a 38% approval rating. That is the lowest approval rating in history at this point in a first term. The majority of the country don't give a damn about you and that dumbass in the White House. And so this is why we have to take the opportunity right now to make sure that we do everything we can between now and November to flip the House and the Senate. That's number one. Number two, we need to put pressure on the Democratic Party to then man up when they're in power. Here's the thing about the Democratic Party. You know that I have said a lot of things about the Democratic Party, but at the end of the day, I am a realist. Our most expedited path to power is to leverage the infrastructure that it's already existing within the Democratic Party. That means we need to make sure that once Democrats are elected to office, we put pressure on them to do the things that need to be done in order to hold these criminals to account. Too long, Democrats have gotten into power and then said, oh, let's just let bygones be bygones. We want to operate in a bipartisan way. Here's what I want you to understand. They listen to you. They work for you. The entire reason why they were able this past week to pull out the funding for the Department of Homeland Security away from the rest of the budget, avoiding the shutdown, but also not including the extra funding for ICE, that is going to be negotiated separately. The whole reason why they did that is because you put pressure on them to do that. That is an example of your power. So I want you to continue to use that power to say, when you get back in power, don't you let your foot off their necks. People need to go to jail behind what has happened here. They need to go to jail. People need to go to jail. Put the pressure on your representatives to go all the way in terms of holding people accountable for their illegal and inhumane acts. We cannot afford to let bygones be bygones. We got here when centuries ago, the last traitors, those snaggletooth idiots who lost the Civil War, when that era's traitors were not handled appropriately. And this is why this era's traitors are here, because they don't believe anything's going to happen to them. We need to make sure that this time it's handled differently. This time, people are held to account. This time, people go to jail and fucking stay there. People will get away with what you let them get away with. And at some point, you have to draw a line in the sand. And so the power ultimately then is in your hands. I'm not saying, here's the thing that I think people don't get about voting and political participation. People believe that voting is enough. Well, I voted for you. Why didn't you answer all my dreams and hopes and aspirations and make everything magically appear? Voting is just the beginning of your political responsibility. It is not the end of it. So you vote, and then you continue to hold your elected official accountable for the actions that you want them to take. You do that by communicating with their staff. Every time they get a letter, every time they get an email, every time they get a phone call, they assume that that is representative of hundreds of people who had the same thought but did not take that action. So what I'm telling you is that the more pressure you put on them once they get in office to do the things that you want them to do, the greater the likelihood that they'll actually have the balls to do it. The Democrats need leadership that has strength, that has balls. And let me just say, that's going to then be your job. Democrats do what they believe the constituents want them to do. They're waiting for direction from you. It's, that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. I wish there was more hubris in terms of just acting with boldness naturally, but they're a little scared to sort of go out on a limb if they don't think that people will want it. So what I'm telling you is that you have to be loud. They listen to you when you are loud. As someone who has worked for elected officials in the past, I can tell you they listen to you when you call. They listen to you when you write. They listen to you when you email. That makes a difference. And so what we need to do is not only vote for people and go about our life and don't even check in until 2 years or 4 years later. What you do is you vote and then you get involved, either individually or with an organization that is very much involved with keeping elected officials accountable. The only way that we're going to change what's happening right now, in all seriousness, we have set ourselves on a very dangerous path here, where it looks like this fool is doing everything he can to try to steal the 2026, November 26 midterm elections and the 28th, if you let him get away with it. What they've done in Fulton County to me is a huge red flag. What they have done with Minnesota in terms of putting in their ransom note that they will only take out ICE if Minnesotans give up their voting rolls, which has absolutely nothing to do with what they're supposed to be there for. This is all about trying to rig the elections. And another thing I would say, if you are, and this is just generally speaking, because they're always throwing Democrats off of the voter rolls, please make sure in advance and double check that you are, even if you have registered, that your registration is still valid, because they always are throwing people off. The Republicans are always looking to throw people off the voting rolls. So I say all this to say, we need to organize, we need to vote in massive numbers, and then that's not all. And then we need to tell our elected officials, this is what we want you to do. We want you to impeach his ass. We want you to not only impeach Trump, impeach damn near his whole cabinet. His entire cabinet is incompetent. And many of them are doing illegal things. You do realize you can also impeach them. We need to add an additional couple of seats to the Supreme Court, at least. More seats need to be added to the Supreme Court to get us out of this right-wing, batshit crazy Supreme Court that we have right now. We have not always had an 8-person, we've not always had a 9-person Supreme Court. Who says it has to stay at 9? Why not at least go up to 11? Those are the types of things that we need to demand of the Democratic Party once they take power. But we got to get them over the finish line first. So the two things I want you to focus on right now is to strategically spend your black dollar and not support organizations, institutions, companies that do not support you. Here is my litmus test. If you have not said vocally that you are for me, I am assuming that you are against me. Any organization right now that has not stood up to say either directly that they are in favor of diversity or have raised some red flags about what's going on in this White House, To me, I'm not spending my money there. So that goes way beyond Target. Figure out where you can support specifically Black-owned businesses and spend it there. And then I want you to really make sure that you are ready to vote in November, that everyone within your community is ready to vote in November. I want you to make sure that you show out and you show up and show out in November, because they're going to try shenanigans. They're going to try it. I'm going to tell you that with 100% certainty, they're going to try it. And our only hope is to overperform at such a high level that even with all the hokey pokey that they will have going on, that they cannot account for the overabundance of votes and people that will come out to remove them from office. Republicans need to be spanked in November. They need not be in power again for generations, given everything that's happening right now. I'm not going to go back and repeat everything I said earlier in the day, but here's the key point that I want you to remember, and then I'm going to let you go. The reason why they are attacking democracy right now is because they know that white people are no longer going to be the majority in this country in the near future. They know that Generation Z was the last majority white generation in America. And therefore, there is a key sort of cabal of thought leaders within the Republican infrastructure, like those people at the Heritage Foundation that came up with Project 2025, like Stephen Miller and Hegseth and all of these folks that are embedded within this administration, who themselves are white supremacists, white nationalists, are afraid of the Great Replacement theory. That, to me, is one of the biggest motivations for the aggressiveness that's going on right now, both in terms of the immigration policy, but also in terms of the anti-abortion policy. Hear me, the two things are connected. Project 2025 just announced a new program that they want to roll out to match couples, and you and I both know they mean white couples. They're doing everything they can, right, to correct that. But the bottom line is it's going to take a lot, because statistically speaking, the birth rate has gone down so much that more white people are dying every year than are being born every year. So they understand that it's just a matter of time. Therefore, they no longer have an investment in democracy, because if democracy is about majority rule, if you're no longer the majority, that impacts your power, at least your political power. It could end up and if they can't have the political power, they at least want to have sort of like a post-apartheid South African system where you have this white minority that has the overwhelming abundance of the economic power. But I want you to understand that's why they don't give a fuck about democracy. They ain't thinking about saving democracy. But let me just tell you, we need to. We need to. Because this is the moment where we could have the power. And I'd be damned if I let them take it. I'd be damned if I let them take it. And if you're not fighting for yourself, fight for your children. Fight for your grandchildren. Think about the world that they will have to live in, and the battles that we don't want them to have to fight, because we go out there and fight it for them to make their lives better. Now is the time for us to fight. If not for us, for them. Do you hear me? All right, now. Well, let me see. I think those are the core things I wanted to go over tonight. Yeah, those are the core things that I wanted to go over tonight. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm definitely happy that at least Don and Georgia are no longer being held. The issue is not over for them. They're going to have to incur legal expenses. the larger thing is, how is this going to impact other media institutions and whether or not they'll cover things? Like, I don't think it's any coincidence that that one Epstein file released today that implicated Trump is not being covered by the mainstream media. They're probably a little nervous about covering that right now. And in moments like this, then we especially need to have independent journalists out there who are willing to do what needs to be done, who are willing to say what needs to be said, so that you can have your rights protected and you can stay informed. All right? So with that said, this was really great seeing you all this evening. I hope y'all are I hope y'all stay safe this weekend. I hear it's going to be more snow in parts, definitely while where I am, it's supposed to be more snow. So stay safe, stay warm, and have a wonderful weekend. I will check you all out later. Take care, everybody. Bye.